Hi, welcome to Your Future, Your Finances. I'm your host, Brian Kuhn. Today we're talking with Kevin Lerner of the presentation team. He's the executive and director of the presentation team, which is about communicating. Kevin, tell us a little bit about your background and some of the companies you've worked with.
Thanks so much, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. When I was 5 years old, I was selected to be the announcer for the kindergarten school play. So early on, I knew that I had a passion for presenting and speaking. And shortly out of college, I majored in journalism, and I found my way into the multimedia lab at Ryder Transportation down in Miami. They were making 35mm slides, and I said, I love this, I want to do this. And soon after, at 24 years old, I founded a company, and we've been successful over the years. We've worked with clients including Motorola, GE, Siemens Corporation, and NASA and the U.S. Army since relocating from Florida here to the Washington, D.C. area just 3 years ago. And of course, yourself. So small businesses as well as large companies, anyone who needs to present, I am passionate about helping people present.
And it's one of the things that scare people most, I think, right? Public speaking. Why is it so hard to speak publicly?
Jerry Seinfeld said that most people would rather be lying in the casket than delivering the eulogy.
Yeah.
And people are afraid to speak publicly because of fear of failure. That's one of the reasons that it comes down to, is that people are just afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing, offend somebody, not know what to say, and it has been ranked as the #1 fear that people have. It actually has a name. Did you know that? Called glossophobia. Glossophobia is the actual fear of public speaking. Now, there are a number of reasons behind it. Some of them are psychological. Some of them are actually medically induced. Stuttering, if anyone's seen the King's Speech, that's a wonderful, inspiring story about how someone actually overcame their challenge of public speaking and how we can all do the same thing.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of organizations out there as well.
And it's very important to be able to do it as well for jobs or for sales or for just conveying information. Why is it so important to be able to do it well?
People need to get their information clearly and succinctly, and communications, it's not just texting these days, especially to the young generation. Communicating in a definite, clear message is so vital. And to get a job, to make your point, to inspire, to motivate, and there are a number of great organizations. I'm going to mention one of them is called Toastmasters. Getting back to this message that you say, well, why is it such a challenge? Toastmasters International is an organization that's been around since 1926. Their core focus is helping people speak and present better and become better leaders. Toastmasters.org.
Yeah. So within public speaking or speaking of any kind, what are a couple tips that you have for us?
Practice, know your material, and rehearse it with a few people. Write it down. Make sure that you know what you're going to say. Even before this interview, I know what I'm talking about, Brian, and I'm very comfortable talking about my message. You're clear about what you say in your regular day-to-day profession. But I said I want to take some time to rehearse this and have people throw out a few questions for me so that I would be comfortable with it. So I think the #1 tact is practice. And to be comfortable, get a good night's sleep, eat well, be nourished, make sure that your mind is working well. Don't worry about it overnight. I've heard a lot of people who lose sleep, and then the next day on a big speech, a big message to their team, or perhaps talk at a club, they're tired and their brain is not functioning that well. So there are a number of things that you can do. Just take it easy in a number of ways. I think that it's just a speech. Yeah. It's not life or death.
And you're writing a book on the topic?
I am very excited, and I've written a number of articles over the years, given a number of talks, and I guess the time has come now to put these ideas into a book. And the majority of what I do is PowerPoint design, just high-end PowerPoint design at presentationteam.com. But the book is going to be called, I'm not sure if we're definitely going to keep this title, it's called Dimensional Presentations, with multi-dimensional presentations. A lot of times I hear, and maybe you've seen it, or people out there have seen people giving presentations that are just so boring and just full of bullet points, and you just want to go to sleep, roll your eyes and say, enough. One of the points that I like to bring out with people is to make your talk more dimensional, more deep, more involved, more than just the facts. And I've come up with this model, and the model is kind of a ring, a hub of 3 different levels of spokes. The first, well, you certainly in the inner core, you've got you, and then the outer core, you've got to connect with your audience. So connecting with the audience, how do you do that? Right? I mean, that's the biggest fear that people have. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? Well, on the outer ring, whether it's a speech, presentation, or a message, you've got content. You've got to fill your delivery with good content. And most people obviously would just put the facts down, data, statistics, but there's a lot more. We're talking about case studies, visuals in PowerPoint, live demos and websites, quotations, testimonials. Maybe you want to throw in some humor, personal stories, call to action, and next steps. So those are some of the key aspects of the outer hub, or the inner hub of the dimensional presentations model. And certainly the delivery aspect is important, that you look good. You always dress better than your audience. You want to speak. You don't want to read your speech. You want to have good audience interaction, just like we're having here. Body language, eye contact, pacing, pausing. Try not to say a lot of ums and ahs. No crutch words and repeating yourself a few times. Rhetorical questions are often good. Do you know what I mean? Those are also good points. And vocal variety. Sometimes you want to raise it up. Sometimes you want to slow it down. So these are some of the key points on the outer ring. The book is going to be covering all of those and supporting all these 2 rings. We've got what we're calling enhancers. And certainly it comes back to the very first point that we talked about, practice. Practice, practice, practice. Preparation, have some passion. Make sure you're experienced in what you're doing and come across like you know your material. Be confident and have good well-being. Get a good night's sleep and eat. We talked about that.
Okay, good. We're going to go to a break. We'll talk more about making your presentation better and your communication better. You're watching Your Future, Your Finances. I'm Brian Kuhn. We're with Kevin Lerner. We'll be right back.